Readers, welcome to Unit 9, Lessons 9 and 10. I'm going to go through some different types of therapy, so here we go. First off, what are the goals of therapy? I'll be asking you this for a bell ringer. The goals of therapy are, of course, to help a client get new perspective on life and to develop trusting relationships so that they can move forward with new behaviors. Okay, begin with psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, when it comes to classical psychoanalysis, is really talking to your therapist. Its goal is to reduce anxiety and guilt by gaining insight into the unconscious. It's the stuff buried beneath the surface that is protecting us. The unconscious is protecting us from the dark and dirty secrets that we have. How do we do it? Well, we do it using techniques called free association, where the therapist says something and the client relaxes and says whatever comes to mind. Sigmund Freud believed that this was an insight into our unconscious motives and will reveal the truth. Freud also believed in dream analysis, where he looked at, and therapists would look at, both the manifest and latent content of our dreams. Now, the manifest content is the actual storyline, and the latent content is the stuff that is buried beneath the surface. That was up to interpretation. What's the hidden meaning of dreaming about your teeth falling out? Well, Freud would say that that's because we are insecure about something, and we need to figure out what that insecurity is coming from so we can move forward in our future. Resistance is, of course, that we come up against some boundaries, our unwillingness to discuss issues related to free association, because we may not have a trusting relationship with that client to therapist relationship, so that's something that a client has to work through. And then transference is when the client transfers emotions associated with other people to the therapist themselves. So here is some a rendering of what that might look like.
Something happened.
What? It's what?
I need something.
What do you need? Tell me.
It just keeps coming. I can't make it stop.
Don't try.
Come on. I gotta get off the hook. I gotta get off the hook.
For what?
For what I did.
What did you do?
For what I did to him.
What did you do?
It's something. Don't you see? It's gotta be somebody's fault, or there ain't no goddamn point.
Point? What point? It happened.
No, it ain't it. No, I don't mean this. It's Bucky, I didn't mean it. Bucky, I didn't mean it. Bucky.
I know that. It wasn't your fault.
But it was. You said get the sail down, and I couldn't. It jammed, and then the halyard jammed, and I couldn't. The halyard jammed. And then you're sitting here scrolling around until it's too late to do anything. And I'm supposed to take care of it.
And that wasn't fair, was it?
No! And then you say, hang on. And then you let go. Why'd you let go?
Because I got tired.
Yeah? Well, screw you jerk!
In that clip, you see a transference of treating Bucky, the therapist, the older man, the adult in the room. So it looks like this kid had been through a traumatic experience. They're talking it out using psychoanalysis. So does this type of therapy really work? Well, on the sad side of the story is it's very time consuming. It does treat anxiety, mild depression, and difficult relationships, however, not major disorders. And like I said, it's time consuming. 3 to 5 sessions per week may take many years, and insurance isn't really willing to cover long-term care like that. 10 to 20 sessions, a few months over a year, is a brief version of psychoanalysis, so it can help with some major disorders, or not major disorders, some. And now to focus on humanistic psychology. Identify and describe 3 techniques used in psychoanalysis. That includes free association, dream analysis, and transference. So humanistic therapy, in contrast, the goal is to help clients reach their full potential. Remember that Maslow and a man named Carl Rogers, who is going to be here, they want people to become self-actualized. And so they believe that people are capable of consciously controlling their own actions, therefore they can change their behavior. Carl Rogers is behind humanistic therapy and the term person-centered therapy. So person-centered therapy is a transition. It happened in the 1950s and 1960s to a more client-centered focus. Now, what does that mean? It means that the client is the one who is in charge, and Carl Rogers is actually the first one in my knowledge to start calling his patients, rather than patients, clients, and treating them kind of like human beings. So clients and therapists are seen as equals, and there is a non-directive therapy where the client leads and just talks about whatever's troubling them. So the focus is really on the client and the things that are troubling them. So the goal here, 3 basic principles include a therapist showing empathy, unconditional positive regard, which means that the therapist is just going to listen and and genuineness. So the therapist is truly themselves and includes self-disclosure. So when the client is disclosing, darker secrets, maybe the therapist throws in there, oh yeah, I've done that too. And it makes the client feel as though they're not alone. A technique encouraged is called active listening, where the listener shows clients that they listen by using reflection, and they kind of throw it back on the client and say, I hear you, and this is what you're saying. So paraphrasing, restating feelings and words of the speaker looks a little bit like this. So client says, now one of the things that had worried me was living at the dorm. It's hard not just to sort of fall in with a group of people that aren't interested, but just around. So now I find I'm getting away from that group a little bit. Being with a group of people I really find I have more interests in common with. So the therapist is going to reply to that with, that is, you've really chosen to draw away from the group. You're just thrown in by chance, and you pick people whom you want to more associate with. Is that it? That's the idea. My roommates sort of pulled me into the group with their friends, and so on and so forth. So the therapist just throws it back on the client, and this is what I'm hearing you say, and kind of agrees with them. You find it a little more possible, I gather, to express your real attitudes in social situations, to make your own choice of friends. I tried to see. So anyway, you can read this for yourself and see that this is more person-centered. It's a client-centered. The idea, does it work? Well, again, for anxiety, mild depression, and difficult relationships, but not major disorders.